Hello everyone and welcome back to the Big Analytics Query. Today we are joined by Oliver Boult to talk about requirements gathering. Oliver, welcome.
Oh, thank you. I'm Oliver Boult, a senior consultant at Simpsons, and like you said, we're going to discuss a little bit around requirement gathering.
Perfect. So why don't you start by telling us what requirements gathering is, giving us a brief definition and how it can be used in a business.
Yeah, so it is what it says on the tin. Requirement gathering is gathering information about what is needed for a project, or sometimes it is a full project, sometimes it can be small, it can be just an output of works or a report. And the purpose of it as a business is to fully understand what is expected of that project, of that piece of work. The idea being there that you can manage expectations of a client, a customer, or a colleague. You can understand the full cost. So understandably, people ask for something and it is quite up in the air, and getting a number on that is quite difficult. Once you've done requirement gathering, you can get a better understanding of the cost and the time, and also the benefits of it. Again, people will say, I need this, it's really urgent. Getting requirements and understanding the actual ask can actually get down to what the business benefit is of them asks.
And so it sounds like it is used for any stage of any sort of project, but where in the project process would you say it's best put?
So you're quite right. We're using the findings of requirement gathering throughout the project. Usually it makes sense to do it at the start. You want to understand all of these bits as soon as possible. So it is done early in the project. That doesn't mean that if you've got a little bit down the line in the project and you're finding that new things are cropping up, there's been a change in scope, there's new asks, that you can't revisit discovery and revisit the requirement gathering section. That can be done, but yeah, usually it's at the start of the project.
So why don't we talk a bit more about kind of what it is and how you can do it? Are there any tools or techniques you like to use?
Yeah, so it depends on what you're gathering requirements for. So if we're gathering requirements for a whole project, as you'd imagine, that's quite a hefty job, and we want to do that quite thorough. So to do that, you're probably wanting to use full slide decks of questions and sort of workflows that you want to understand. That ranges down to sort of building a report. If you want to see a visual within Power BI, a page within Power BI, we still want to understand what it should look like, what it needs to do, but that can be done on a lot smaller scale. That can be done using wireframing, using things like Figma, which allows you to visualize what a Power BI report could look like. It also allows you to add sticky notes. So people sometimes think that requirement gathering has to be this big and expensive thing. It doesn't. Sticky notes on a blackboard can do exactly the same thing. So the tools vary depending on how big the requirement gathering need to be.
I guess it sounds, like you say, quite dependent on whether it's requirements gathering just for a Power BI report or a page, or whether it's the whole process. But are there any difficulties or struggles that you would talk against, if that makes sense, in the process? Yeah,
so funnily enough, understanding what people want is very difficult. People know what the end goal is. Sometimes they don't know how to get there, especially within our line of work. That can definitely be the case. So if you're doing a project, or you're even just building a Power BI report, if you actually ask someone, what do you want, you sort of hit a bit of a brick wall. Yeah. So it's learning how to ask questions in a way that gets the answer without the customer or the colleague feeling like they're having to think about what they need to provide.
So taking them on a journey.
It's exactly that. Yeah, exactly that. And one of the things that we often do for both the project side sort of full-scale discoveries and for the smaller reports is we actually ask business questions. You know, for the project ones, we start with asking what's the business need, what are you using systems for? You know, when are you interacting with them? What are the benefits of using this system? What are the pain points? What we're not doing there is saying, what kind of data platform do you want?
Yeah.
You know, initially people would see that question and freeze, even somebody that is fully versed in data platforms. So asking them business questions, you sort of tend to get a little bit of traction, and then from there you can start asking more technical questions. But initially asking the what are the business pain points, what are the business needs, what are the business drivers, then you get in the way in to then start asking them more difficult questions.
And are there any other issues that you regularly encounter in requirements gathering?
Usually people understanding what they can do. So again, it sounds silly that someone would say, right, I need this, I need a data platform, or I need a report, a Power BI report, or I need a data model. And then when you go, what should it look like? Yeah. And it's sort of like, well, I don't know. That's very common. So the issues usually come around that sort of understanding the underlying need. Being able to get to that underlying issue to then say, right, well, if we built the report like this, it would resolve it because of A, B, and C. And then from there, customers usually go, I don't like that, I do like that, and we can sort of tailor it from there.
So what about if you're going into that requirements gathering session, you're doing it at the start of the process like you recommend? What sort of questions would you ask? What tools would you, skills, I guess, really, would you need to start that process correctly?
Yeah. For me personally, a lot of it is understanding. So I guess part of that is sort of listening and being able to take in a lot of the information that's been given. With our roles, we go into a lot of customers and don't know a lot about their environment in terms of what are their struggles, and part of our job is to then understand them quite quickly. So as part of the requirement gathering, the discovery sessions, we want to be able to understand people's pains, understand things that are working for them, and the way to do that usually is I've found recently putting a slide up that goes through these questions that are business questions, recording it, and then what you can do, if it's quite a hefty one, we can put the transcript into Copilot, ChatGPT, and we can get it to fill in the blanks of our questions. So then we've got ourselves quite a hefty document to understand, and we've managed to narrow it down from just a conversation to the key points, and then we can move then forwards on the technical side of things.
And I know it will depend on what the process is that you're building for, what the requirements are and what the business is, but do you have any kind of go-to questions that you always like to ask in a requirements gathering?
So use case is sort of a situation where a person, anybody within the business, is using a system to get information out or even to input information in. So from there, if we're saying to a customer or a colleague, what is the main system you're using to produce reports? What is the main system you're using to get information out? And usually something springs to mind for them. It might not. We can sort of ask it in a slightly different way and say, do you produce any reports? What's the biggest report that you use? Do people come to you and ask questions on data? If they do, what's the most frequent? And then from that, we've got that initial one. So it might be producing reports for senior leadership on a monthly basis, quite a common thing for a lot of people in a lot of businesses. And then from there, you can understand the pain points of that. So how do you produce that report? How long does it take you to produce it? Do you have to repeat that process? So you can start to understand the difficulties that they're going through. Likewise, they might have automated all of that process, and you can learn quite quickly. This sort of process is a model process. Asking them questions around the use cases allows you to sort of push a little bit further and get into more detail.
And do you have any final top tips when going in and how best to prepare for a requirements gathering?
Yeah, I think the top tip would, don't worry if you just get silence. You know, we've been in quite a few requirement gathering, a few discovery sessions where you're sat there and you've asked a question and it's silence. You know, people are sometimes quite nervous to step up and say, I think this. And likewise, if you're new, if you're a consultant like we are, sometimes it can be quite nerve-wracking to speak to an external person about things that aren't working. So don't worry, don't panic and say, you know, this isn't working. Keep at it and you know, you might need to rephrase the questions so people feel more comfortable to come and answer them. But yeah, don't panic if it's silence. Yeah. That's quite common.
Amazing. Well, thank you very much for joining us, Oliver, and your insight, and thank you for watching. If you've got any questions for Oliver or the rest of the team, then pop them in the comments below and we'll get back to you. And don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel. Bye.